Angie? Hello?
I think we're ready to start. Hello, everybody. We're just about on 7 p.m. So, a huge welcome to our webinar on understanding your child's learning style. So, we will do our usual, we'll get started on content, but please do put any questions in chat and we'll make time for questions at the end as well. So, let's get going now. I'll just share screen. Present. Oh, actually, that didn't work, did it? So try again, Angie. Sorry, folks.
No worries.
That was a bit. All right, presenter view. I was prepared, honest, and somehow became unprepared as we got going. So I shall share screen now. Here we go. You can see that okay?
Yes, you can.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, like I say, this evening we're talking about understanding your child's learning style. So, we all learn in different ways and we learn in the different ways that we experience the world. So, the goal of early childhood education, according to Maria Montessori, is to ignite the child's own desire for learning. And I totally agree with that, which is why it's really important that we personalize learning experiences and start from where the child's at and go forwards instead of backwards. So 90% of our brain is developed by the age of 5. 90%. That's just unbelievable, isn't it? And neural pathways formed in the brain during these foundation years form the foundation for all future learning. So it's a really critical stage in our child's development, these early years. And there are a number of things that affect how we experience the world and how we learn. And for preschool children, one of those contributory factors to how, affecting how they experience the world is actually their brainwave frequencies. For young children, the brain frequency is different than that of adults, and it changes as we grow. So for children 0 to 2, it's delta frequency. And then it changes to theta between 2 and 5 years of age, then alpha between 5 and 8 years of age, and then beta 8 to 12 years plus. So that beta frequency is the same as adults. So that changes around 8. And this is why there's lots of conversations about the early years being the most important and about stages of development. They normally follow 0 to 7, then 8 to 16, and so on to 14, sorry. So the first 1,000 days lay the foundation for the child's future. Now, when we talk about the first 1,000 days, we're talking about conception. through to around about 2 years of age, because they know science has proven that children experience sounds and energies and the mother's voice and the mother's heartbeat from the point at which they're conceived until they're born. So they are having a life experience at that stage, and it is affecting the development of their brain. So at the time that 0 conception through to 2, the brain frequency is delta. Now for you, that frequency would feel like the deepest, lowest frequency, that of dreamless sleep. So it's more operating from the subconscious mind. So the brain is not kind of at the point where it's in development where they're consciously aware. And this is why they say in those first 2 years, everything is essentially programming the subconscious mind. And that's why we have no memory, of those early years as well. So, and this is why, as they say, therapists will often say, what was your childhood like? Because in those early years, you can have traumatic experiences, have no memory of the experience, but it can still be affecting your life going forwards. Like, for example, you could have a fright from a dog, and that could create a lifelong fear of dogs, but you have no conscious awareness of why you're frightened of dogs. So that could be an example of that. So then from 2 to 5 years of age, can I just go back to that one as well? When we look at that, the 0 to 2 years of age, this is why it's pointless for us to have any behavior guidance strategy around rewards and punishment, because children do not, misbehave or do things that might upset us. They don't do it knowingly, and they don't do it on purpose, because they don't. Their brain is not sufficiently developed for them to be more analytical and to plan out certain behaviors. At this stage in life, behaviors are a form of communication. They're not manipulating us when they're crying. They're crying because they have a feeling, a physical or emotional need that needs to be met. And the neuroscience behind this proves that that's the case. So then we come into 2 to 5 years of age, where the frequency increases. It goes to a theta frequency, which for us would feel like that sleepy, kind of drowsy feeling that we have. And this is a super learning state. So when any of us are in this brain frequency, then our minds and our brains are open to suggestion, and we can absorb information a lot quicker and a lot more easily, because there's no stress. Stress is a whole different state altogether. There are no other, I guess it's like if you think about hypnosis, where you are more open to suggestion than you are at any other frequency. And children during this age, and you'll see this as well, they believe everything you tell them is true. And you've only got to hear children maybe in an argument where one child says to another, "I'm not your friend." The child who's receiving that really upsetting comment will often get really upset by that, because they believe it's true, and they believe it's true forever. And this is why it's the way their brain operates. And it doesn't matter how often you tell them that, then that's not true, they're just saying that, and of course your friends, they will really struggle to believe that. And then when we get to 5 to 8 years of age, the frequency changes again to a higher frequency, which is alpha. And it's still the realm of imagination, but it's a more relaxed but alert state. So it's not like deep relaxation, it's relaxed with alertness. And this is where we now have, between 5 and 8 years of age, we now have the beginning of the formation of the analytical mind. So this is where the higher brain is starting to really develop and engage, and the children become a lot more analytical and aware of their thinking, their beliefs, and their behaviors. Then, and of course, we know that our life experiences, as well as our DNA, form the pathways in our brains that shape our future, because these pathways are forming our behaviors, our beliefs, and our personality. So our role as educators is to expose our children to a variety of different experiences and opportunities for learning, so they get that holistic opportunity for their brains to develop and to learn. We need to ensure we provide an emotionally safe environment as well, so that our children can thrive, because we all know when we're in a state of stress or distress, then it's not easy to concentrate, and it's not easy to learn either. So, and then also our role is to understand the individual child, understand them as in their unique personality and their learning and their development needs alongside of that. So what do we mean when we say understand our child's unique personality? Well, we're meaning their natural temperament. And the reason it's important we understand this is because it helps us to limit and avoid stressful situations. So, for example, if you know your child gets stressed in really busy, noisy environments, then you might not avoid them forever and a day. That's not real life. But you would be more understanding if your child became overwhelmed, or if you if they became stressed and upset in that situation. And you might then put in place steps to support them with that, like going to the venue. Say it was a play group, you might go a bit earlier so your child can get used to the environment and watch the busyness slowly build up rather than walk into a crazy room. Or you might decide that you only go for half an hour instead of an hour and a half, for example. Also, it's important, I'm not doing well with slides today. Also, it's important that you understand how your child learns best. If you understand how they learn best, then you're able to support their learning in a much more holistic way. And also, if you understand how they learn best and their unique temperament, then you can better teach them how to manage their own emotions, how to self-regulate, and how to communicate their needs and desires effectively. And so, again, understanding their temperament is really important, because the brain is constantly changing. Children, through life experience, are developing those neural pathways. And because children's higher brains are not sufficiently developed, they might not be able, well, they certainly, most wouldn't be able to articulate, oh, I learn best this way, or I struggle in these certain situations. The way we understand our preschool children is just by observing their behaviors in different scenarios. And I'll give you some thoughts on what that looks like. So we refer to a child's natural temperament as being their natural genius, because we believe that every child is born a genius, and it's our responsibility to bring out the best in them and to help them see and understand how amazing they are. And we do have a Genius quiz that we'll be launching soon, and it's based on the work of Roger James Hamilton, who created the Genius test for adults, and also the talent dynamics and wealth dynamics profiling tool. He developed this from the work of Carl Jung. So it's from 3,000 years BC, I think it is, from ancient Chinese wisdom, and knowledge on ancient wisdom on psychology. So we talk about the basic 4 temperaments, the 4 genius types, as being dynamo, the green here, tempo, blaze, and steel. And what this looks like is essentially those 4 genius types are like a map of the brain. You can see the brain behind this image, and we've got our left brain, and these are very generic terms that most of you will be familiar with. Left brain people are normally introverted people, right brain people are extroverted and more creative. Then we've got left brain being more logical, Then we've got the frontal lobe, which is more intuitive, and the temporal lobe, which is more sensory. So if we were to look at the brain and those 4 genius types, knowing that they are covering certain parts of the brain, as our brains are developing, we find that we develop a personality or a temperament where we more readily go to certain parts of the brain. Certain parts of the brain are activated or more dominant than other parts of the brain. Now, we all use the whole brain. So it's not to say introverted people only use their left brain. That's not true. We all use the whole brain. It's just which parts of the brain are activated more quickly and are more dominant than other parts of the brain. So if we look at the different genius types, then think about this in the context of the children you're caring for, or your own children, or even yourself, actually. Think about which of these best describe you or your child. Is your child flexible and easygoing? Are they easily bored and they like to be really busy? So if your child has 2 or 3 of those traits, then the chances are they're a dynamo genius. On the other hand, if your child's really caring and sensitive, they like predictability, they like to know what's coming next. They don't necessarily like noisy, very bright, very busy environments, and they form more one-on-one or small group friendships rather than being like the life and soul of the party and everybody playing with lots of people all at once. Then they're going to be tempo. Blaze children tend to be very entertaining. They tend to be extroverted. They're the life and soul of the party. They love to socialize with lots of people. They thrive in busy environments, and they love talking, and they can appear quite bossy. And then finally, we've got the more steel energy children who are more introverted. They can appear to be shy. They enjoy solitary play. They would rather observe, sit back and observe, and feel confident before they jump in and try new things. So they don't jump in both feet first, like maybe a dynamo energy might. They tend to take their time and be a quiet observer. And then when they feel ready, then they'll give things a go. So have a think about that, and maybe think about a person, you know, yourself, a child, one of the children you care for, and think about what kind of energy you think they are. And as we go through these slides, here's a little bit more on each of the geniuses. So dynamo are intuitive, so they tend to be a daydreamer. They have their head in the clouds. They love to have a sense of freedom, and they like lots of variety. And when they get focused on tasks, like you will hear dynamo children saying, "I'm bored, what can we do next? What can I do now?" But they're very creative. So if you can get them engaged in something, they'll apply themselves to that task for extended periods of time. But they are easily bored. If there's nothing to do or nothing to stimulate their thinking, then you'll hear them complaining. They don't like to follow rules and structure, so they can be little rule breakers, and they're not very good on timing. So you'll find that, you know, you might say to them, I don't know, dinner's in half an hour, or we need to go in 10 minutes, and they'll have, most children struggle with time, but dynamo, it's a lifelong, dynamo energy people, it can be a lifelong challenge. They have no concept of time. So then we come to Blaze. Blaze genius are more extroverted. They love people and social situations. They're fun loving, and they're fun to be around as well. People warm to them because they tend to be really friendly and outgoing, really confident in groups of people, and often the life and soul of the party. But they can be seen to be a show off. They can be very talkative and not give other people the opportunity to contribute. And they really don't like to spend too much time alone. They gain their energy by being around other people. But steel energy are the opposite. They are more introverted, so they they gain energy by spending time alone. Steel energy people tend to be logical thinkers. They like to analyze information. They tend to have a traditional read-write style of learning. They love knowledge and facts. So it's really important to them that they know. They seek out knowledge, and they're like young scientists. They have a strong sense of justice. Everything's black and white, right or wrong. And they will really stand up for what they believe in. They don't like to be put on the spot, though, because it's really important for them that they have a sense of safety and security around what they know and understand. If you put them on the spot, they'll shrink. They'll feel this is where they might appear shy. Don't single them out and ask them to stand up in front of people, because they will shrink from that, and it'll make them feel really insecure because they don't like being the center of attention. And although they can cope in group situations, then it's not their most comfortable place to be. And then we have tempo, who are, like I said before, really sensitive. They're also sensitive to the feelings of others. So they can sometimes be upset and not really understand what's upset them. They can kind of soak up the energy of other people and the energy of a space, and it can affect their mood. So it's really, they're like little emotional sponges. So it's really important that we help them to understand that and help them to empathize without taking everything on for themselves. They like predictability. They like to know what's happening and when it's happening. That way they can prepare themselves, and it helps to give them coping strategies. For older children, they like to have a calendar and a schedule, and that really supports them in organising themselves, their time and their energy. Sorry, I'm just moving something out the way. This slide's a bit wrong. I'm sorry about that. I've not changed this bit here. So tempo energy don't like very loud, stimulating, bright environments. They like to have a nice, calm, predictable environment where they can be hands-on, they can be independent, and they can manage themselves really well. That's important for them. They like small groups of friendships rather than large groups, so that is true. And they don't always like being the center of attention either, although they will cope better than steel energy children will. But for tempo, it's more like kinesthetic learning. It's more by learning by doing. So for tempo energy children, they want you to show them. They want you to do it with them. And if they can be practical and in learning, then it makes that easier for them to absorb. And it's very easy to tell what energy someone is, because we tend to teach in the style we learn. So dynamo energy, being visual learners, they will often say, if they're explaining something, they'll often draw it for you. Or they'll say they like to have graphs or pictorial representation of some sort. Blaze tend to be verbal linguistic communicators, so they'll explain everything and they'll explain it to you. And steel energy are more logical, so they like the data, the knowledge and the facts. So you can see it's very different how each style learns. This is why as well, like I said before, none of us are just one part of the brain. We are all the whole brain, but we'll have a natural temperament or a natural strength in one of these areas. But this is why they say the more areas of the brain you can involve in any learning experience, the more likely you are to remember it. So if you can have hands-on practical learning at the same time as somebody explaining it to you, giving you the knowledge and the information, the data or the science or the information behind it, and having some kind of visual prompts, then you're engaging all areas of the brain and it makes it easier to learn. So in summary about the different energies, if we look at their learning styles, then we can say that dynamo energy children will really, being visual learners, being creative and imaginative, they will love the imagination area. They will love open-ended resources. Say, for example, loose parts um, or like natural resources, or a variety of different art and craft materials. They love to solve problems, so they love problem-solving toys. So, or problem-solving resources. It might not necessarily be a toy, but they really like to be engaged with bringing their creative thinking to the fore. Our Blaze children will gravitate towards the role play area, or where there's any group of children where they can go and be the entertainers and have fun with them. They love group sports and group games and any opportunity to meet new people. So they'll thrive in busy play groups and busy social situations. Tempo children, they like the freedom to choose, and they like to be able to, when I say choose, they like the freedom to be able to manage their own time and energy. That being kinesthetic, they learn by doing, but also then that because they're highly sensitive to lots of stimulation, it really serves them well to have a sensory area. Like even if it's in a home-based setting, it could be that you put a pop-up tent up and put some soft cushions in there. So if it gets too crazy busy with all the other children, then they can go and choose to take time on their own. Because they're so caring, they can be emotional sponges. So to be able to regulate themselves really supports them. Caring for animals and gardens, getting them out in nature is really good for tempo energy. And then we come to our young scientists, who are the steel energy children. You know, they love to know how things work. They love to construct and deconstruct. They like learning knowledge and information. So learning how something works is really, really important to them. So they, like I said, like information books rather than storybooks, for example. And they like to be able to have some time for solitary play as well. You will find if you've got a steel energy child and you spend too much time in busy social situations, they might become overwhelmed, and that could look like them suddenly having a meltdown, or it could be that they suddenly struggle to cooperate with other children, and that's just overwhelm. It's not bad behavior, it's just that maybe they're struggling and they need some time alone. So if we understand our children and we understand their natural learning style, we can really support them by setting them up for success and helping them to engage in the learning environment and learn in the way that supports their emotional and cognitive well-being. So it is a very quick run through. So I'd just come into any questions. I can go back and talk about any aspect of it, but if anybody's got any immediate questions, now is the time, and I'm happy to answer them. I'm just going to try and stop share because then I can see chat. Does anybody have any ideas on what genius, what energy you are or your child?
Mine is Dynamo and Blaze. So
Oh, yeah.
hard to keep him in one place and keep him entertained, whereas my energy is more like steel and
Oh,
I'm more introverted, so it's kind of a challenge. So the challenge really lies on the parent or the caregiver adjusting to to the level of the child's personality, really.
that's very true. That's very true. We have to remember we're the adults in these situations. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean that it's not challenging. It's, you know, it still can be. If you're more introverted and you've got a crazy child who's always busy and can be quite demanding, then that might be challenging. But when you understand that that's their natural energy and it's not bad behavior, excuse me, then you can learn how to better challenge that energy and set him up for success.
Angie, I have a really practical, real life scenario where I
Yeah.
was faced with all four geniuses in one room, and I just forgot what's the best way to entertain them and keep them engaged without them being crazy with one another. So,
Do you know what I
what's the
find
best way?
is the best way is to have open-ended resources, so whereby children can choose to engage with the resources you're offering in whatever way they choose. So open-ended resources could be loose parts play, as an example, where for anyone who's not familiar with that, loose parts play is where you might get lots of different loose parts like big nuts and bolts or driftwood, excuse me, pots, parts from anything, just like a whole variety of random objects, and let them engage with that in whatever way they would like. It's amazing what children can construct or come up with when they're allowed to use their imagination and create creativity in that way. Another go-to is Play-Doh. Play-Doh, but adding different things into it. Most children will enjoy Play-Doh. Um, and that you might, for some, it might be Play-Doh with um, sensory objects in, or for some, it might be Play-Doh with just random wooden sticks, or with plastic animals. It could be a whole variety of things. That's another great go-to as well. And giving children who are a whole range of energies different ways to engage in the learning experiences then allows them to manage their own energy at that time. Art and craft and painting, it could be that for some you might have paper of different sizes and shapes, and you might have different coloured paints out. You might have paint brushes and sticks, and they can choose to engage in that however they like. So children who are more conservative and less likely to take risks are going to be the ones that are likely to go for what they're familiar with and use maybe a paintbrush on the paper, but others will get stuck in and they'll maybe mix all the paints together, and they can all enjoy those experiences in different ways. So it's never a one size fits all in education, never. We're all uniquely individual, and it's really, really important that we recognize and honor the individuality of every child. And if we can start from where the child's at, understanding that we're all unique and we all have different temperaments, and some might cope in some situations where others might not. It doesn't make the child wrong. It just means we have to find a way to understand them and find out what triggers certain behaviors or responses from children. Now, the genius quiz or the genius energies is a tool that you can use to support your understanding of the different energies. It's not an exact science. It's like any profiling tool. It just gives you something to work with whereby you can better understand a child's energy and the way they think. And when you get used to the terminology and the language, it's a very easy way to explain to other people as well what your child needs in that situation. So we are all not made the same. And that's the wonderful thing about life and the world we live in. That brings the richness and the variety. And yeah, it's up to us to understand that. It can be quite challenging with what other people's opinions of what the children in your care or your children might do and how they might behave. But I think if you can understand them and you can set them up for success by helping them to manage their energy as well, then you're doing the very best thing for your child or for the children in your care. or for your parents, whoever you're working with. So that's a good question, Sam, and that has many different answers. So I've just given you a few examples there. Getting into the natural environment suits every child. So it's really getting into nature is really important. We all know how good it is. It feeds the soul. It's very grounding, and of course, children will engage in the natural environment in ways that that we don't need to tell them what to do. They'll go and find their fun and engage, because it's important to us all. But just kinesthetic children who are more kinesthetic and hands-on you'll find if they're struggling, these are our tempo children, if they're struggling to regulate, get them into nature, get them out to get their feet on the grass, get them experiencing, planting seeds, planting trees, helping you do the weeding. It's really going to help them emotionally, particularly if they are overwhelmed by lots of other people's emotions and feelings around them. If you can get them into nature, it brings them back into balance. It's really important. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Angie. At least I know now how to. What's my go-to strategy if ever we have large family gatherings and we have children of different energies. So
Don't let people tell him he's a show off or use any negative language like that around him, Sam. It's children who are naturally extroverted can really have their light dulled by people making judgment around
mm,
their extroversion and their energy. It's actually a gift. Just as being an introverted, logical, analytical child, it's a gift. These are really we want to recognize them not because they are a weakness, but because they're a strength. But as much as they're a strength in one area, it might be a weakness in the other. So if we can focus on the strength and have strength-based learning and strength-based relationships, then we can compensate for their areas of struggle and set them up for success and support them there.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for your time and for attending. It's always great to see you here. We'll let you know when our next webinar is, and it would be really great if you can join us. Yeah. And hey, I noticed Janine. Hi, Janine.
Hi there. I'm sorry I was late. I was having technical difficulties. The down clock was telling me there was 18 hours to go, and the link didn't take me anywhere. But luckily, Kristen saved the day for me.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Janine. I don't know what we've done there. My apologies for that.
No, that's all good. I got there in the end, but I do apologize for being late. I've got lots of my educators have been very interested in this topic. Some couldn't make it online tonight, but I know that they are going to watch it later on when it suits. And I'm really pleased to have had that conversation with them, because after listening to this information again tonight, it's really reinforced and reminded me about how we can best support the children by getting to know them as well as we can.
Yeah, so true, yeah. Janine. So true. Hey, for anybody on this call, we're having a two-way conversation here. Janine's one of our amazing visiting teachers. So Janine brings so much wisdom to Education Angels as well. So that's why I was quite pleased to see Janine on this call as well. So thanks, Janine. And yes, the recording hopefully will have recorded. We'll be able to share that with your educators. And if anybody does have any questions, Janine, I'm sure you'll be able to answer most of them, but happy for you to bring any questions to me, or if they want any more information on any part of it as well, just let me know.
I might even come back to you for more information as well, just so I can refer back to it. As I said, I found it a really helpful and useful tool. So I'd like to be able to refer to it in my visits as well.
Brilliant. I'll get the quiz to you on paper, Janine, and you can maybe start using it and then give me some feedback, if that's okay.
Perfect. That sounds amazing.
Fantastic. And for anybody on the call as well, we'll let you know when the quiz is live, because it's a really great way, particularly during transitions when you're getting to know a new child in your care. If you get the parents to complete the quiz, it gives you a foundation understanding of the child's natural temperament as well. So it's good for that too. So like I say, thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye all.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.